Hello, everyone. This is Faheem Jackson, and it's episode 104 of my podcast show, In the Know. This podcast is aimed at trying to guide people through the world with a variety of topics. I'm also using this platform to ask questions and try my best to answer these questions with my viewpoints of the world around me. The following episode introduction speech is for the topic of today. And that introduction speech is regarding who is the Antichrist? Have you ever heard of the Antichrist? How many of you feel you are moving through this world with the Antichrist among us? Well, there have been plenty of people who have been here on earth that we have given that title to. These people who are the opposite to the preachings and teachings of Christ have the ability to persuade followers into doing bad over good. And why is this scary? Well, when someone is here on earth that the masses can adhere to, this tends to be more swaying than God. Why? God is the belief, but the person is right here on earth in front of us. Someone you can see and touch. So what do we do with this person who has the ability to galvanize in a negative manner? There must be a swift intervention. The only problem is, how so? Because there are these types all over the world. How do we prioritize who to deal with? Well, let's observe this episode on the overall views of who the Antichrist is and what they're capable of. What is the Antichrist? See, the Antichrist is a person who comes to this earth with the intention of being the opposition to Jesus Christ. This person can only be described as the person who is sent here in a similar form as Christ, but the mother is different. Christ was born of a virgin mother, and the Antichrist was supposedly to be born to a virgin, but yet the mother of the Antichrist is believed to be a whore. Another view of the Antichrist is that this Antichrist is someone who blends in with God's chosen people and runs himself off as the Messiah and the ruler of Jews in Jerusalem. For the people who are not convinced of this leadership would be tortured and killed. Yet in the end, God's army led by Christ will defeat the Antichrist and regain control. So who is walking among us? Is there or has there ever been someone who has been walking among us that is the Antichrist? And we can point to some names that have been obvious names that would fall under this category for this episode. One of those names would be Adolf Hitler, who was responsible for the deaths of millions of Jews during the Holocaust in Europe. But was he the Antichrist? Because an Antichrist is someone who disguises himself as the leader of God's people. So he has to be the characteristics of someone we would put under the category of evil, but not Antichrist. Now, on the other hand, cult leaders have told their leaders that they are the second coming of Christ or another deity. Some of these cults have been broken up, and others have led to the downfall of the followers. Notable cases would have to be Jim Jones' mass killing in Jonestown, Indiana, or Marshall Applewhite, who orchestrated a group suicide. As you can see, there have been close calls, but nothing to the height that the Bible speaks of. Where are they going to come from, though? When you look around the world, can we anticipate where the person will pop up in the world? Because we are witnessing the battle in the Ukraine as Russia invades. Yet nothing of what Putin is doing in Russia can be described as Antichrist. People have their views as far as his behavior, but I cannot say Antichrist. Outside of some of these obvious countries where fighting can occur, we don't know of any of these smaller locations. Could any of these people in these smaller areas branch out and become bigger than they are in their region? Now, if these people never branch out, then we will never know about their presence here on earth. But that still leaves the question regarding how will they expose themselves? How will they present themselves to us? The most obvious way in which the Antichrist will come to show their face to the people would have to be through the church. But there are other ways in which the Antichrist could present himself to the masses. For instance, a college professor can be someone who disguises himself as the Antichrist. How so? Well, these are men and women who are dealing with the impressionable young males and females. It is much easier for these younger individuals to follow because they see you as an authority figure in their area of expertise. Yet still, how many professors are truly going to be running themselves off as king of the Jews in order to get students to follow them? So yes, this is a bit of a stretch for professors to get students to follow them. As I said in the beginning, you will find that religious figures present themselves because this is the best method of reaching the masses who will follow. Has the Antichrist appeared among us today? In my opinion, has there been an Antichrist that has been born that is walking among us today? Well, I don't know how true this would be, because how in today's society would we gauge this person's existence? Especially considering a lot of people don't think about that someone like this is walking around in the first place. Let's assume that the person is walking around us. How do we know once again? Okay, what part of the world are they located in right now? Because if they are in the United States, then who and where are they located? What about in the continent of Africa? So as you can see, that person could be in existence, yet there's no proper way to know, simply because who is trying to convince the people that they are of the opposite of God's teachings in the first place? Why would God allow an Antichrist on earth? See, God gives his children free will to exist how they shall please while here on earth. And that is the reason why an Antichrist is allowed to be here on earth. Now, the Antichrist will ultimately meet their demise because God does deal with the person. On the other hand, people have met with evil walking among us, and nothing has been done to stop the person. We always make up reasons by saying we can't deal with them like God can deal with them. Only problem is that Antichrist would be ruining a lot of lives in the process. So what about them if God deals with them in his own time, on his own terms? Is Antichrist an idea, not a person? Here's where we should sit back and try to figure out what the Antichrist really is about. Because does the Antichrist represent a person, or more of a concept which aims at trying to find out how far man would be willing to go for power and control? Because if the Antichrist is someone who disguises themselves as the leader of the masses to get the masses to follow them, and turning away from God to follow them, then wean out the people who won't follow the Antichrist, would mean that we are likely going to have someone on our hands that has a lot of charisma. So the idea of the Antichrist could be more of an internal struggle. There could be this inner feeling of godliness that we hold ourselves to, where we think people should listen to us. So much so that they should turn on their own beliefs and cling to what we have to say. But is this a belief because we are still a person, even though the idea of self-greatness is just that? Then again, any idea that exists will be attributed to a person or even people collectively. Is religion way off? Now, people, do you truly believe there's an Antichrist walking among us? And if the person were to be the Antichrist, how much would they be able to get people to follow what they are saying for real? Because this is not the distant past where things like this could take place and the masses follow. We have way too much information available for the masses to listen to someone calling themselves a messiah. And you know what? This might exist, but who listens? So to me, this Antichrist is not someone who we have to truly fear from. We have more to fear from us as a populace than a single individual trying to get us to follow them. Don't get me wrong. There will always be these leaders who speak to the masses that get people going. Yet nothing on the scale of an Antichrist. So with this end statement, why we have to know if there is an Antichrist. See, this topic really does not do much for me, simply because I am not convinced that someone could be the Antichrist. The world could have another dictator, but I don't know about someone truly being able to be the Antichrist and control masses. Could they control people in a small environment? Maybe. But as you move to an even bigger populace, then no. I just think that views in the Bible are just more of an idea that will keep people on a straight path. The Antichrist that lies within us should be something that is combated, in my opinion. That is how I am able to make sense of the Bible and its views, making us look at ourselves and getting us to make appropriate decisions that are in alignment with God's teachings. So thanks for listening to In the Know. I'll be bringing you another episode regarding religion. The topic will be asking another question. How do you deal with tragedy when there is belief in God?